Hi, I'm Lisa Everett and I am the presenter of a new podcast called Babble&Squeak. Hi Gavin, thank you very much for being the first guest on the Babble&Squeak podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
That's okay. And today we're going to talk about the importance of good mental health. So would you like to...
Yeah, we hear an awful lot about mental health in the news these days and TV and radio. And I was just sort of wondering, what do you think we mean by mental health?
Well, I suppose we have good mental health and we have not so good mental health. So basically I would say good mental health is being positive, feeling a sense of good well-being, being able to manage emotions, managing what life throws at you in a positive way, having good coping mechanisms, because that's really important. And poor mental health would be when you struggle with emotions, you struggle with things that have happened to you, loss, grief, relationship break, not having those tools to manage them very well.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that you're talking about, the things that come up in life day to day, those things we can't avoid in life, those kind of bumps in the road, if you like, and just our ability to be able to deal with those successfully and not let them sink the ship.
Yes, and obviously in the job I do at Hope Housing, we meet a lot of people along the way who have either struggled to have good mental health from a very young age, whether they've had different experiences or any trauma. So when they then go through life and find difficulties, they struggle because they haven't really had a good foundation of good mental health, or they've never really had good positive mental health.
There's that kind of buzzword that seems to be very popular in the field right now, biopsychosocial.
Yes.
So bio, I guess, is some of it is our genes.
Yeah.
Some of our predispositions to mental health problems. But bio can also, of course, mean our physical health. And if we, are plagued with physical health problems, that can get us down. Psycho?
Yeah, psycho. So I never used to believe in any of that years and years ago when I was in my 20s. I didn't really believe that the bio and psycho and social would have an impact. I used to not give it any time when I used to hear about it. And obviously over the years of my training and counselling and stuff like that, I actually completely 100% believe that all those areas have to be in a good place, really. If you're not well physically, that'll affect your mental health.
Yeah.
If you're not in a good place socially, if you haven't got a very good social circle,
a good support network behind you.
Yeah, no support network, then you're going to find it really hard and challenging. And it's all going to have a big effect on you psychologically.
And it's very interesting that, all those three aspects need to come together. If we're weak in one, then we need to be super strong in the other two to make up for it. If indeed we can make up for it.
And we don't know in life's journey what will be dealt, what cards will be dealt. So it's very difficult. So some people could be bimbling along with very good mental health, and then they suddenly lose a parent or something traumatic happens. They're in an accident that affects their physical health. And that is when it becomes a big challenge for people to sail through that and overcome that.
And I guess as well, this is where the idea of resilience and mental resilience comes in here. Our ability to dig a bit deeper, our ability to find strength whenever we hit one of those potholes in life, whenever one of those life events happens to us.
And I think that's why people end up going to counselling, do they not? Because they struggle in those areas and they struggle to be able to find the tools within themselves. So they need that support to do that. And that's maybe why they come to see people like you or I to get a bit of self-awareness around that and their abilities, that they do have those capabilities, but they're locked inside with the grief or the trauma and it's trying to work with someone to find those resources.
Yeah, and I think one of the defining characteristics of good therapy is when a client actually leaves with the tools to help them tackle other similar life events that might happen in the future. So to be able to kind of look after themselves going forward.
Yes, I do. And obviously, a lot of people that I see and you see who had a history of addiction or in recovery have working some sort of program. So they're working a program to all about personal development, becoming better and managing things better. But I think everyone, whether they've got addiction issues or anything, should do a 12-step program. That's just my personal.
Oh, now that I find fascinating.
Yeah.
So, what would the 12 steps be? Or outline some of the 12 steps then.
Well,
general 12 steps of life, would you call it?
Yes, I think maybe I would tweak it a little bit. But I think people that need to work a program on themselves, because actually step one is about honesty. And people think, oh yeah, I've got to be honest. I don't take £2.50 when I shouldn't, or whatever. But actually, it's about being honest with yourself.
Okay.
It's being about honest, that's what people don't really get. It's,
honest, realistic.
Yeah, being honest to yourself before you're honest to anyone else. And that's what some people really, really struggle with.
And I wonder why that is. I wonder why we find it very difficult to be completely honest with ourselves. Is it pressures of expectations from other people?
I think people don't like to look at their defects, and we all have them. Right. None of us are perfect. We all have our defects, but actually having
Lisa, even you, surely.
Even I.
Even you.
Yeah. So I think people find that hard to look at maybe that they're the problem. Look at the part I've played. Look at my behaviours. That's quite challenging for an individual.
It's difficult for us all, isn't it? Because none of us like to feel that we are the problem, or we are at least a part of the problem.
Well, we are flawed, maybe.
We're all flawed. We are all flawed. Even you, Lisa. I have to say, even
me.
Even
that's
you.
Hard to believe.
I struggle to believe that, but even you might be very marginally flawed.
Marginally. Yeah. No, definitely. And that is the sticking point. And I think when people can sit down and look at their behaviours, look at their defects, and be supported with that, whether it be in a counselling room, whether it be with a sponsor. But I mean, in all areas, I think just making people more insightful and giving them more self-awareness, that is the 12-step program would do that.
So that sounds quite freeing in itself, just being able to say, I'm human. Yeah. I'm flawed.
Yeah.
I don't need to be perfect.
Yeah. And I have issues. It's like the person that says, I only have 2 drinks a week, when actually they have a lot more than that. It's not being able to be honest with themselves. So I think step 1 is very, very important.
Step 2 of life?
Believing in a higher power, not necessarily God, but something that inspires you. But step 4 is the biggest, hardest one of all that people find, is looking at resentments. And they can be very small to huge ones. But going right back to a childhood and looking at those resentments that I've harboured, that's quite a big one for people as well. Usually people relapse on step 4 or give up on the programme on step 4.
So in terms of the steps of life, how would that translate? So resentments towards...
resentments, little ones, towards siblings, towards parents,
towards our upbringing, our childhood.
Yeah, anything.
All the things that we haven't been able to let go.
Yeah, and being able to talk about that and let it go, like you say.
Letting go is a huge, huge thing in the counselling room. I find that comes into the counselling room at least once a week.
Yes.
An ability just to say, this wasn't great, this wasn't brilliant. I'm not even sure I played a very good role in this, but you know what? I can get over this. I can let it go. Yeah. And it takes time. I think for some people it's a process. And by doing a program or working some sort of program, doesn't necessarily have to be 12 steps, but finding something that works for you. It could be interests, it could be a new interest, it could be a new hobby or something you're passionate about. Really changing your whole behaviours
and doing it differently, it can help you let go of other stuff. It's sort of a bit like, changing and
So
developing.
that's a brief outline of the 12 steps of life. In terms of encouraging positive mental health, what are the things that we can all do day to day? The little things in life that we can do to kind of give ourselves a better chance of enjoying good mental health.
Um, I think your environment's really important, and I think a lot of people that I've spoken to over the years, they're a bit in denial that their environment may be holding them back. Their behaviours might be holding them back.
So that's confronting
yeah,
ourselves again. That's looking inwards and
yeah. So it's not just, oh, I'm going to do this differently and it's all going to be better now. You might have to change things on a bigger scale in a way that you've never really thought about before. To make things better. But I think talking to people about your feelings,
right,
that's
a huge thing, isn't it?
Yeah, especially for men.
Yeah,
it's very hard to talk about my feelings and how I feel, and that is difficult. Obviously for women as well, but I do find that men find it quite difficult to reaching out.
Do you think we're getting better at that? Because we hear quite a lot about men's groups now and tool sheds and things like that. Do you think we're making strides to sort of improve the ability for men to express how they really feel?
I think society is trying to.
Yeah.
I think, I still think it's actually doing it is still difficult, especially when it's what your culture is, your upbringing, and how you've been brought up to talk about your feelings. Some people might not really.
I sort of wonder. The reason I asked that question is because we read so much about it, all these men's groups and men's forums. I almost wonder if, in some ways, what we've done is create an expectation for men that they should be able to go and open up, and yet the reality is it's still quite difficult.
I think it is very difficult. I mean, I spoke to someone a few years ago, and they said that they'd got to nearly the age of 50 and they'd never spoke about their feelings. And then I think it's having the right condition to do that. Some men need the right support and condition to be able to open up like that. But yeah, I think it's still an issue, to be honest. I think we have less women come here at Hope Housing. Mm-hmm. It's predominantly male. And I think that one of the reasons for that is that women talk more. They talk more about their problems. They reach out for help. They try and, whereas men are more proud, they won't ask for the help. So they end up, coming to Hope Housing because they're sleeping in their car or they just find it hard to solve it and reach out.
And say, I'm not doing too well. No. I could just do with a bit of help.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting work.
And so, what other sort of little general day-to-day things? And obviously, speaking to somebody, how about sort of exercise?
Fantastic exercise. Just walking.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that strenuous, does it?
Doesn't have to be the gym.
In touch with the great
doesn't
outdoors.
Matter how many kilograms you're bench pressing.
No. But I think being outside, really, walking with nature, all that sort of things, that will improve your mental health. Anything else you can think of?
Yeah, I think nature therapy. I'm looking at the window right now and I'm seeing a squirrel.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I live in the country, and I would say now I value that environment for my mental health, especially since COVID. I think if you took me out of that environment now and put me somewhere completely that was chaotic, I would struggle.
So at Hope here, obviously we're in the centre of Bournemouth, and yet we're probably 10 minutes from the beach, 10, 15 minutes walk from a beach.
Yeah.
Depending how fast you walk. But so it just goes to show there's always somewhere that is wild outdoors.
A lot of people here who come to Hope, they love going to the beach and walking on the beach, or they go and sit and think, or go and meditate, or that's another thing, meditation, mindfulness, that sort of thing is all good.
Mindfulness is huge, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. So there are lots of things you can do to improve your mental well-being.
I think with mindfulness, one of the things that I've taken from that, and I've read quite a lot about that recently, there's the big rise in mindfulness-based CBT and some fantastic results that that's achieving for depression. Biggest thing for me, the biggest takeaway for that is somebody said, the Dalai Lama said there are only 2 days you can do nothing about. Yesterday and tomorrow. I.e., we have today. We can only deal with today. So what's gone by yesterday, don't ruminate on it. Don't worry about it. It's gone. There's nothing we can do about that. Be forgiving. Accept that what's done's done. And don't stress about it. Don't be anxious about what's happening tomorrow. Because you can't do that. We're not there yet. But live today well, and we'll take care of both.
Be in the moment.
Be in the moment. Yeah.
Very important. Okay. Well, thank you, Gavin, for coming to talk to us today.
You're very welcome.
On our first Babble&Squeak podcast. And hopefully we'll get together again soon and have another chat.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for coming, Gavin. Thank you.
Take care.
Please tune in next time to Babble&Squeak, where I'll be interviewing someone from the community and we will be talking about gratitude.